Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with more of 1953's How to Build a Record Library by Howard Taubman. Here's the book. And as promised, we're on orchestral music, and now we look at the B list. The B list is for a more complete collection. We've already done the A list. And this is interesting. Now, there were some curious things about the A list. Thinking back on it, I think the oddest thing about it was the inclusion of all four Schumann symphonies. I don't know why they would do all four of them if it was just the essentials. I mean, maybe pick the Spring or the Rhenish or 1 and 4 or 2 and 3. I don't know. I think the reason that all four Schumann symphonies appeared is because in those days, many, many more people studied piano. And Schumann was a really big deal, a basic for people learning the piano. And so his music was more generally available to and familiar to American, classical music people at home from their own personal experience. I know this because my father, as a piano student, was forced to play Schumann when he wanted to play jazz, and it turned him off for piano playing for the rest of his life. So anyway, let's look at the B list and see what curiosities await, including performances too. The B list is more complete, more expanded, more interesting. So we've got Bach, the musical offering, in Hermann Scherchen's arrangement of it on Westminster. That is not really a piece of orchestral music, is it? They snuck that in there with Scherchen, of all people. It is really cool. Bartók, Concerto for Orchestra. Now, in 1953, that was brand new. I mean, it was like a decade old, maybe. And with Reiner on Columbia. Wow. And the music for strings, percussion, and celesta with Kubelik on Mercury. And the Piano Concerto No. 3, which was even newer, with Georgy Sandor on Columbia. And the Rhapsody for Piano and Orchestra with Andor Foldis on Vox. Wow. That is quite a selection of Bartók. It shows you just how respected he was after his brief sojourn in the United States before he died of leukemia. Amazing, astonishing, I think. Berlioz, Romeo and Juliet with Dmitri Mitropoulos. There you go. Bizet, The Fair Maid of Perth, obviously a suite with Thomas Beecham, and the Symphony, yay, with Leopold Stokowski on Victor. But the Carmen and l'Arlésienne suites are nowhere to be found because Bizet was not in the A list anywhere. Isn't that a weird selection? Does it have to do with what was available on disc? I don't know. You tell me. Bloch, yay, Shlomo, cello and orchestra, and his Concerto Grosso No. 1. Though that was also rather new, I think. Or, well, I mean, all of these pieces were, okay, I'm just taking it. Shlomo is with Leonard Rose, and the Concerto Grosso is with Steinberg on Capitol, which was EMI, Angel, whatever. Boccherini, the Cello Concerto. It just says Cello Concerto. Of course, there were dozens of them, but we only knew one in those days. That was with Pablo Casals on Victor. The Borodin Polovtsian Dances with Stokowski on Victor. And the Symphony No. 2. Oh, with Malko. That's nice. On Victor. Bruckner. Finally, Bruckner shows up. He wasn't on the first list at all. Symphony No. 4 with Klemperer on Fox. Yeah. Symphony No. 7 with Scherchen on Westminster. 2 discs. We were not where we are today with great Bruckner recordings, obviously. Chausson, the poem for violin and orchestra with Francescatti on Columbia, and his symphony with Pierre Monteux on Victor. You could do worse. Copland, Appalachian Spring with Walter Handel, American Recording Society. That was also brand new. It was written in the mid-40s. Billy the Kid with Bernstein on Victor. Rodeo with Levine on Capitol, or Levine, not James. Let's see. Corelli, his Concerti Grossi with Eckerstein on Vox, 3 discs. Okay. That seems like a move born of desperation. Falla, El Amor Brujo with Reiner on Columbia. He loved El Amor Brujo. He did. And the Three-Cornered Hat with Ansermet on London. That's the mono one. The first one. Dukas, The Sorcerer's Apprentice with Toscanini on Victor. Dvorak's Cello Concerto, oh finally cello, Dvorak's popping up, with Pablo Casals on Victor, and the Symphony Number 4 with Cell on on London, which was Decca in the US. And there was also American Decca, which was not London. It's very confusing. The Symphony Number 4, remember, is the 8th. Symphony Number 5 was the New World, because the ordering was all out of whack. Symphony Number 3, by the way, was number 5, and number 2 was number 6, and number 1 was number 7. I hope that tells you what a mess Dvorak was until the 1960s, basically. Elgar's Enigma Variations. Okay, he wasn't even on the first list with Toscanini. Franck's Symphonic Variations with Maura Limpany. The symphony was available before. Glazunov, the Violin Concerto with Nathan Milstein. Oh, that's wonderful. But Glazunov is a new appearance. Karl Goldmark's is a new appearance. The Rustic Wedding Symphony with Beecham. See, that's a piece. I've talked about it a few times and done a video about it. It's marvelous. And it was really quite popular back in the 30s, 40s, 50s. It was one of those one-shot wonder pieces, but it was very well known and quite beautiful. And now it's popping up again. Hindemith, 2 works. Mathis der Mahler and the Theme and Variations. It shows you just how important, the 4 temperaments, it shows you just how important he was. Mathis der Mahler is with Guido Cantelli, which is wonderful. And the 4 temperaments was with Zimbler on Decca. I mean, really astonishing, a living composer. And yes, he's getting some play. Edward McDowell, Piano Concerto Number 2 with Rifkin on Westminster, because he's American and they have to do it. McDowell was one of those composers who, when you used to go to concert halls and they had Gluck and Bach and Beethoven and the names of all the great composers written in the in the proscenium arch and around the hall, they had to have an American, and they always picked McDowell. And I always remember sitting there going like, what the hell is he doing there? Anyway, so McDowell, Piano Concerto Number 2. Mahler, Symphony Number 1 with Metropolis. Symphony Number 2 with Klemperer. Symphony Number 5 with Scherchen. This is in 1953. They're giving Mahler a lot of credit, I think, because they've already got his 4th with Bruno Walter in the A list. So now you've got 4 Mahler symphonies between the 2 lists. That's pretty good for the day. I mean, the performances, well, again, not great, but it's what we had. It's what we had. Mozart, Divertimento Number 10, the members of the Vienna Octet in F major, Herschel 247. Strange choice. Serenades in E flat and C minor. Those are also wind serenades with the members of the Vienna Philharmonic on Westminster. And then the Grand Partita, the Serenade for 13 Winds with Steinberg on Capitol. Well, at least they're filling in. Mozart, of course, was the greatest ever composer of wind serenade music. So, okay. Paganini, Violin Concerto Number 1 with Franciscati on Columbia. Poulenc, never showed up on the first list, but he's all over this one. Wow. You've got the Concerto for 2 pianos with Whitmore and Lowe on Victor, Les Biches with Desormières on London, and the Piano Concerto, which was also brand new in 1953. It really was, with Haas Hamburger on Period. I know what that is. Prokofiev, he's also making a huge comeback here from the A-list. You get the Classical Symphony with Koussevitzky, Lieutenant Kijé with Scherchen, Piano Concerto Number 3 with William Capell, Symphony Number 5 with Eric Tuxen on London, Violin Concerto Number 1 with Szigeti on Columbia. Why were none of those on the A-list? Rachmaninoff, the Paganini Rhapsody, played by Rachmaninoff, and the Piano Concerto Number 3, played by Horowitz. These were both on Victor. Then we've got Ravel, the Mother Goose Suite with Ansermet, and the Piano Concerto with Henriot, that's what's her name, Henriot Schweitzer, or whatever her name was, on London, and the Rhapsody Espagnole with Ansermet on London. Ansermet was in charge of French repertoire. This was before Munch in Boston, and there was a lot of French repertoire by Koussevitzky and those people, but Ansermet apparently was their guy, just like Toscanini was their guy. Schoenberg, Verklärte with Ormandy. Schubert Symphonies 4 and 6 with Van Beinum and Cripps, both on London. Shostakovich is finally popping up. Yeah, well, there we go. And he was very much alive in 1953. I mean, he'd just written his 10th symphony. and the violin concerto. So he was in full swing there, but he was sitting on them. This was the year, remember, 53, that Stalin died. So all kinds of great stuff was about to appear because it was safer. Shostakovich just says piano concerto with Joyce. Must be piano concerto number 1 because number 2 didn't exist. Symphony number 1 with Radzinski on Columbia, and Symphony number 5 with Horenstein on Vox. Oh, it's a terrible, awful, sucky performance. Absolutely wretched. Wow. Ugh. But again, they just went with what they had. There wasn't a lot of selection in some of these works, especially the newer stuff. Sibelius, well, the Swan of Twinella has now appeared. He was all over the A-list with Ormandy on Columbia. Richard Strauss gets Also sprach Zarathustra with Clemens Krauss on London, and Le Bourgeois Gentilhomme with Clemens Krauss on London. There was a lot of Strauss on the first list too. I think there was anyway. Let's just take a quick peek so that I'm not hallucinating. Yes, there he was. Oh yeah, all kinds of stuff. All the other tone poems were there. Stravinsky, Histoire du Soldat. You know, it's rather interesting, yeah, because you've got the Firebird Suite, Petrushka, and the Rite of Spring in the first list. So you're branching out into the neoclassical Stravinsky now with L'Histoire du Soldat, played by Ubradou on Vox. Definitely not a lot of choice there. Tchaikovsky's String Serenade with Kusevitsky. Vaughan Williams, here he is. He's made it onto the B list. The B list, the Tallis Fantasia with Anthony Collins on London. The London Symphony with Adrian Bolt, and Symphony number 6 with Stokowski on Columbia. Was he on the A list at all? Wait a minute. We could just go back and take a peek. No, he was not. He was not. So there we go. And then finally, Weber, his Concertstück with Casa des Sioux. He made it to the B list. Now the next list is opera. So there's your B list. Rather amazing. I mean, you know, that there's, you know, both works by Faya. I mean, I love Faya. I think he's an A-lister, but, you know, it's kind of astonishing. So between the A list and the B list, you have really quite a decent collection of stuff. And really, when you think about it, aside from works that hadn't been written yet, and more about that in another video, that's kind of cool. I mean, they've done a very, very good job, I think, coming up with, you know, Howard Taubman, that is himself, with Harold Schoenberg assisting, did really quite a job coming up with a 1-2 punch of orchestral music that would really grace any collection, although the performances are really, we're just at the dawn of the LP era. And in a lot of this music, the selection just is not anything like what we have today. And that's worth keeping in mind. We're very lucky. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.